Yesterday, it was confirmed something that we reported over a month ago, and that is that Alabama has moved on from Eli Gold as its play-by-play voice. We're going to talk about that, the reaction from Alabama fans, and Chris Stewart. Congratulations to him for getting the big promotion and a huge win for Bama basketball. What a great game as they beat Florida in overtime to stay undefeated at Coleman Coliseum. All that coming up right here on the Bama Tailgate YouTube channel. Like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. Let's get this thing started. Here's your invitation. Roll Tide. So everybody, there he is on COVID lockdown, but working with us tonight. And that would be Mr. Big Elmo. I'm Mick Gillispie at Brett Elmore Show. You know him as Brett Elmore. I'm Mick Gillispie at Broadcaster Mick. And I feel like there's a lot to talk about, Brett. Eli Gold not going down without a fight after 36 years as the voice of Alabama sports, including football, for a lot of great memories. We talked about this, I don't know, so right after the national championship game, we reported it that he wasn't coming back. And I guess it's official now. I don't know, but kind of a sad day yesterday for Alabama and Eli Gold on one hand, but then, you're also really excited for Chris Stewart on the other hand. Your thoughts?
Well, Alabama football is changing. First Nick Saban, now Eli Gold. Of course, Eli, I've been on the air since the 88 football season. I think he started at the university in 87 with basketball. But Eli, of course, I remember him just as a kid growing up on the back porch with my dad, listening to the ball games while we cut grass or grilled or barbecued or whatever. Would have Eli on, listening to the ball games. Of course, back then, I'm not from the Stone Age, but back then, the TV, you get some games half the time, the other half the time, you listen to the radio. But a lot of people still love to listen to Eli, but no more because apparently the university has decided to part ways. And Chris Stewart, as you see, on Eli's right there in the picture, is, moving up, and he has some big shoes to fill.
Eli Gold's contract is up in June, so he had a 5-year deal, and it had been rumored, even the last contract, that they may not renew it. So it's not that big of a shock to me,
Right.
but I've got mixed emotions. First off, I'm like you, man. I mean, I think that him and Snake on the games was the best combo I've ever heard on football. Loved it. Loved the Snake. I liked him on the play-by-play and kind of letting Snake do Snake's thing, which was tell great stories and get excited and explain what was going on with the game and the plays and tell about Bear Bryant and all that. And then, eventually Snake got let go and that was a tough day. That sucked. And, and honestly, Father Time just is unrelenting. You can't beat Father Time. And so, I totally get the decision. I wish there was another way to do it, though. And I think I talked about that when I made the video a couple of months ago or a month ago, right after the national championship game. It's a shame that they couldn't have put him on baseball. Maybe he could have done, color. I know he doesn't feel like his skills diminished, but for me, someone that, is a play-by-play broadcaster and grew up listening to Eli, it was hard to follow the action. Not just this year, but I'd say over the last 5 years, if you didn't have the TV to go with it. But then there's that iconic voice and that comfort that he brings, and the feeling that you turn on the radio and there's Eli Gold, so I get that part of it too. I'm just really kind of surprised that he is handling it this way. I figured you work with the university, you get the great press release, you say, hey, I'm kind of retiring from this. I may do some other stuff, but he's kind of going, scorched earth here, maybe not pointing out individuals that he doesn't like that did this, but at the same time, just by kind of making it clear that this isn't his decision and, he's not happy about it. Pushing it as far as he can, man. Like that's not going to make people happy that make those decisions.
No, it's not. And I think he did a couple of interviews yesterday that I read and heard and saw. But it's probably not going to make the powers that be very happy. But he wasn't ready to go. He made that very clear. He wasn't ready to retire. He believes his health is back 100%, and of course we're very happy that he was able to survive that terrible scare with cancer, obviously, and was able to get back in the booth. I would have loved to have seen maybe him go one more year, and at least have a final goodbye. That's the thing with me about it all is, you think about legendary broadcasters and they had that last game, I guess, many of them, where you knew this was going to be it or whatever. But, and I don't think he got that opportunity, but, I guess the final big time call was that one, the Gravedigger call, I guess. But, like I say, it's a new era at Alabama with a new coach, which doesn't have anything really to do with this, but it's a new coach and a new voice of the play-by-play booth, and Chris will do a good job. Chris is excellent at what he does, and he'll do a good job, and Eli will. We'll miss him on Saturdays in the booth, but he's going to land on his feet. He's too good of a broadcaster. I think he's supposed to maybe he already has a one deal in place and possibly two that he's working on. So he's not retiring, but he'll just be not at Bryant-Denny Stadium or in that broadcast booth anymore.
I think he did the Birmingham Bowl. Maybe he was down in Mobile for the Senior Bowl. He's gonna find work, but I doubt that the University of Alabama is going to put him on anything for a while, because this isn't the type of exit that they probably would have wanted. It's tough. I mean, you've been there for a long time. In his mind, he still feels like he's good enough to do the job. He wanted the job. And he wasn't afraid to keep going up the ladder, and hopefully on his account find someone that would basically say, hey, he's going to keep doing the games. But, he said in one interview, I heard him say, well, the final thing was, Greg Byrne was on there, and Jim Carabin, who's in charge of the Crimson Tide Sports Network, was on there. And they told him that it wasn't going to happen. The thing about it is you got a guy in Chris Stewart who, unfortunately, because of this, is kind of what this is, and the significance of his career and his time at Alabama should be a really great time. But Eli's exit, and he's going to do a campaign style tour. You're going to hear him on as many outlets as possible talking about this. Fans do love him. I think it is a split Alabama fan base. I think there's people that are excited about Chris Stewart and want to see Chris get the opportunity, and there's people that absolutely want Eli Gold on the call and are going to be pretty upset about the fact that his contract wasn't renewed, and it's hard to leave a situation like this graciously. And that's just not his style. I mean, you think about the way that it ended in NASCAR. not hardly even a goodbye after 30 some years there of being what I figure has got to be one of the best voices that NASCAR ever had. I mean, I can tell
Yeah.
you, I liked him better on NASCAR than I did Alabama, if that tells you anything. And as good as he was at football, him on those NASCAR races, and I used to listen to a ton of them when it was Earnhardt and Jeff Gordon and that crew. And hearing Eli Gold on the MRN call was was a treat. So
Yeah, that was always big, and I remember NASCAR Live. He would host that, I think, on Tuesday nights or whatever it was. And no, those are all good. But Eli, I'm glad his health's still good. He doesn't want to retire. He'll get some work, and I remember back, and I remember my dad talking about this in particular. My dad was a big John Forney fan. And John Forney, of course, famous play-by-play announcer for Alabama, and Forney was good. And Forney had some medical issues, and he tried to come back, and he wasn't the same, and it was sad. And that's not how my dad and other fans kind of wanted to remember John Forney on the radio as this person who was trying to come back, but just really physically could not do the play-by-play job anymore.
Yeah.
And that was sad. But Eli, which is the best for him, and like I say, he'll land somewhere. But the fans are definitely. This is something everyone's been talking about since yesterday. I think I saw a petition going around social media.
Did you sign it?
I did. I didn't sign it. I'm not putting my name on anything. I'm in COVID lockdown. I'm still looking for a tower. I've got enough. I've got enough stuff to deal with. So no, I didn't sign it, but I just put your name on there and said, "Hey, I've done my part."
I'll put my name under the congratulations to Chris Stewart petition. I mean, look, I just feel like he would have been so much better served to just take the victory lap and let the people decide instead of going out like he's the guy running against Trump and Biden. Like I mean,
I hate it.
Sit well with it's not going to sit well, Brett. I'm telling you right now, with that Alabama athletic department.
No, it's not. And I do feel bad for Chris. Because this isn't his fault. The guy I know as well as you do. He's worked his way up through the ranks, and I remember when he was at Birmingham Southern, and I know this is a dream job for him, and it's kind of being overshadowed a little bit, by this, but it is what it is.
Yeah, right.
But I hate it for Chris.
Yeah, and I mean, I just, I would shoot you straight. I mean, if I thought that Eli was, still able to jump up there and sound like the guy that he was 7-8 years ago, I'd say that, but it just wasn't the same. I mean, I listened to some of the games this year, and I used to be in the studio when I was hosting the pre and post game show on the Tide radio. And I mean, there were times I didn't know what was going on, and that was before his health surgery. And then this year, I mean, he was getting down and distance wrong and players' names wrong. I mean, it was like, man, this guy used to be, I got messages, and this is a true story, from people that heard him on XM and like, I thought this guy was iconic. And I'm like, man, he was, and you can't hold what you're listening to now against him because he just got out of surgery. He's had a miraculous comeback, and everyone's so happy for him and that his health is there. But the skill set when you're on there doing play-by-play is one where you really have to be sharp. And it's a shame that they couldn't have, like I said, they could have figured out, in my mind, a way to incorporate all the great stuff that he does on the microphone without having him be the guy that calls the plays. There's
Yeah,
more
yeah,
than one
yeah.
way to do a play-by-play. I mean, how many of them have you done? I mean, we both do it, and it's like
Yeah.
you don't necessarily have to be the play-by-play guy to have a real
Impact on the broadcast.
an impact on the broad, and it can and make a connection with the fans, right?
Yeah, yeah, no, that's true. I mean, he could have took another role, and there apparently were some options on the table, but he did not agree to them. So I guess there was some options out there. Don't know what they were, but and maybe one day we'll find out. But he didn't
Well, he
want to do
said,
it.
right. And let me say this, Brett, hold your thought. He said that they, this is something he said on Ryan Fowler's show, that they offered him some tickets and a parking pass.
That's bullshit. I mean, that's crazy.
You heard him say that, though. You heard him say that.
Yeah, yeah, and that's crazy to me. If that was the deal that I was offered,
So do
I
you
don't
think
know.
that's how it went down?
I don't know, but I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall of these conversations. After 35 years, you're giving me a couple of tickets and a parking pass. Do you get a free hot dog and a beer with it, or what? Do you get anything? Could you at least give me some hospitality deal with it, or whatever? I don't know. It's that's bad. That's bad.
He said
but,
that they said he could do the 8A game, and then apparently that got pulled off the table, according to Eli Gold, too. You got to leave at Gravedigger, though. I mean, think about it. That's still going to be one of the most iconic plays in the history of Alabama football. I mean, that's a way to walk out, man. That's a mic drop moment.
Oh yeah. That's a big one. Now, let me ask you this. I hate to put you on the spot, but your favorite Eli call?
Oh man, I don't know. Probably the 92 championship game. I thought that was Eli at his best, and I remember for years.
That was probably him in his prime, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for years, that was like all we had, those highlights from the dome against Miami, So I don't really, I can tell you this, the call that he had against when the 2nd and 26 or whatever, it was he was just like spouting out every stat that you could ever think of. This is this and this is that, and it was all true, but it was like I don't know. I guess to me it would have been better to just touchdown Alabama's national champs and then let the crowd talk, instead of because that place was going nuts. And radio is the theater of the mind, but but then I listen to it now and it sounds good. I don't know. I mean, it's hard to sit here and say which one was my favorite one because I don't really have any that stick out, but
I guess
his voice.
I like that. I like the second and third and 26, whatever it was, against Georgia. That was good. And of course the Sugar Bowl, like you mentioned, against Miami. He was great in that. But that first national championship with Saban, I guess, at the Rose Bowl, and I think he painted it really well. I think what did he say? And once again the roses of this grand old stadium are once again crimson, or something.
Yeah, that was a good one too. Yeah,
that was a killer line, and I really liked that. But everyone has a favorite Eli moment, I guess, and hate to see him go, but there you go. It's the news of the day as of yesterday.
Yeah, I kept hearing reports for some people he was difficult to work with, over the last few, I don't know how many years. And, you wonder, I mean, you get older, you kind of get set in your ways. You want things done the way you want them done. And then all of a sudden, the young people might not want to do it that way.
Right. I feel like I'm going to be that person here. I feel like I may be already starting to have that set in. And I'm not even old yet. I don't consider myself old, but I'm like, that microphone cable is not long enough. You need to reach over a little bit more for me. Yeah, that's the way it is.
Yeah. Well, when he came up, it was a different business, and we respect that because that it was a different business. It was so hard to get those jobs. They meant a lot.
Oh,
I
sure.
heard him
Yeah.
say it was like precious crystal holding the Alabama job, and I get
But
that, but at the same time, it's he said, and I heard him say this continuously on an interview, you work at their pleasure, and basically that's the tough part about any job, it's especially one that you love doing. It's not about you, it's about what your employer wants, and that's the tough part. And man, I feel for him, and you see the pain in his face, and you hear the pain in his voice, and and he's given us so many great memories. But I feel like I said before, I don't agree with the campaign stuff. I think you duke that out behind the scenes, and then you go out in public and you say, you know what, this isn't what I want. But I mean, look, Eli Gold got out of NASCAR, Brett, and I was the play-by-play guy doing most of the games on baseball on the SEC Network Plus for Alabama. And Eli Gold took that job because he was out of NASCAR, didn't have a job. And as unhappy as I was and felt like very similar to probably how he feels right now, there was no campaign in public going, hey, you know what, this is what happened here. It was like, hey, you know what, that they get to pick who gets to be on the microphone and who doesn't, and you also
right.
respect the fact that the guy's been around for a long time. But at the same time, he deserves a really great send-off that I don't know if it's going to happen now, just like in NASCAR, where it was like a letter on a Tuesday, and then that was it. You never heard from him again. And then like a
Right.
week later, he wasn't on their website. And I talked about that before. That's a whole nother story about a whole nother situation that he was involved in, that didn't have anything to do with being a great play-by-play guy, but a disagreement that he had with management. And and here it is again. And it just sucks because it just feels like we've had a lot of change here lately,
we have, and yeah, he was an independent contractor, and we've kind of all been there before, and
there myself.
And that's kind of why I like working for myself, is because now I can't get fired by anyone anymore.
Yeah. Hey, look, people talk to me about working for them, and it's like I think about it a little bit, and
I'm thinking,
yeah,
do I really? No, never mind. No, I don't want to. No thanks.
When the guy
that I'm going to have to answer to someone,
it's like when the guy you've never met before calls you and says, "Hey, can I talk to you for a minute?"
Yeah.
Why? Well, we're going in a different direction.
Mr. Elmore, how come you're leaving at 1:15? Well, that's what I always have done. I don't understand. No, you work for me now. What?
Yeah, right.
You mean we don't leave at 1:15?
Do you think that this dies down, or do you think that it gets some legs and people? I mean, what kind of revolt is it? I mean, the other part is that most people watch, and I say this knowing that you own a station that plays Alabama, right? But I feel like a lot more people watch the games now than they used to, although you still need, play-by-play on the radio is still really important. I mean, if you're going somewhere or, a lot of people turn the sound down with some of these national combos that are on there, and you turn the game on and it's like ESPN has put together this broadcast crew that sounds like some people that were in college a week ago, or it's Gary Danielson, and you want an alternative, right?
Yeah. Or Beth, what's her name?
Beth
Mowens. Do I think it gets some legs? I think it'll be a topic for several days. But remember this too, and this is kind of odd how this all works in this way. Remember when he was hired on, it seemed like the entire Alabama nation did not want him to be the play-by-play guy.
Yeah,
because he's from New York.
Yeah, he was from New York. Burt Bank kind of forced him on everybody back then. The late great Burt Bank.
Yeah, and now it's like the Bama Nation's rising up again, saying, "Hey, you can't do this to Eli."
Yeah. Wow.
So it's got to come full circle back around, but as a positive toward him. But I don't know. Does it gain any legs? Maybe for a few days. We'll see how it all plays out on social media. But the bottom line is this: Chris Stewart's got the job, and that's who you're probably that's who you're going to hear this fall.
Right, and I really thought it, and I told you this when we were listening to the interview on Ryan Fowler's show, that it really spoke to me a lot about Eli's character that he didn't mention Chris Stewart, because Chris has worked with him for a long time. Those guys we both prayed for those guys through horrific health illnesses and wish them both success. And as painful as it is when things don't go well for you, it would have been very noble to congratulate him. And I got to tell you, man, there's this great example of a similar situation. And, I have covered the Cubs forever, right? And, a long time. And
yeah,
they made a move where they fired David Ross as their manager this year, and they hired Craig Counsell, and it was terrible. I mean, if you're Rossi, I mean, they just basically, no one saw it coming,
Yeah.
And it happened like that. And Rossi immediately message congratulations to Counsell. And when he was interviewed, he mentioned that, and it really goes to show like his character, and what type of person he is, where his universe is focused. So I don't know. I just hope that there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be, angry that Eli Gold is gone. Obviously the way that he's framed the conversation is going to make people mad too at Alabama for this. But I just hope that you guys realize Chris Stewart's been doing this stuff for since I was a student at Alabama. I remember when he came on doing baseball in the 90s, or maybe it was the early 2000s or something, but it's been 20 some years, and it's his time. When they were doing games last year, Brett, and it was Eli at home and Chris on the road, and Chris was way better. I mean, you just knew what was going on and all that. And I just, like I said before, and I don't want to make this out to be like where I'm bashing Eli, because that's not what I'm saying. I just think there could have been a spot where you have both guys in the booth. Maybe you just had Chris help, with the play-by-play action, and then you could have had Eli, as another color guy. And there's lots of 3-man booths, and it works. But I don't think that that's a scenario that we're going to see, especially after the way that this whole thing is shook out. And the other part of it is that, he's talking about that he just, that, well, it was found that it's finalized a week ago, man. I've been on this story for a while, and I reported it a month and a half, and right after we lost to Michigan. So that tells you something too, and you can go back and watch it. I reposted it yesterday. So I'm just, and just as a person that looks at the future, is Chris Stewart's time, man. And I really am excited about what he's going to bring to the table, the sound that he's going to represent at Alabama. And then I just hope that Eli doesn't burn the bridges so much that we never see him at Alabama again.
Right.
I don't want him to be a castaway. Like,
no, we don't want that. So, but best of luck to both of them, Chris Stewart and Eli. How about the hoops team, man?
Let's switch gears, Brett, and we're going to talk about these guys. Look at this, man. They played one of their worst games of the season.
Yeah.
But part of that is that this Florida team is long and tough, and they made a bunch of shots in this game. They pushed Alabama to the brink, and then in overtime, Bama had a big lead, and it came down to the very end. And Nate Oates and his team get it done on a night where they did not have their best. Sears was not the Sears that we're used to, missing a bunch of shots. Nelson was good on the inside. I thought Pringle played really tough defense. Estrada, those guys, and they had somebody was out for the game too, and they were able to kind of work through that.
Yeah, look at that guy's face for Florida. I wonder what he's thinking right there. Yeah, it was a big win for Alabama, and let's see, they've only lost one home game this year. I think that was to Clemson, undefeated in SEC play there at home. Look, this was the only top 25 matchup on the slate last night, and on national television, and it lived up to the hype. Florida's not a bad basketball team at all. They're 18-8. Alabama, I think, is 19-7, or did they reach 20 wins with this victory? I believe they're 19-7. But yeah, it took overtime. Crimson Tide outscored them 13-8 there in the extra set. So I sound like a broken record, but I love it because of the spread of the scoring and the double figures. You had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players at double figures.
Yeah. It was Whitesell that was out, by the way, and Estrada laid in the winner.
Yeah, Estrada finished up with 20 points right behind Nelson's 22. Then you had 17 for Sears, 14 for Walters, 13 for Pringle, and Griffin, the guard, had 10. So great effort there in front of another great crowd at Coleman Coliseum. And I hate to see these guys again, that's for sure.
Well, and you're going to see them again. But then Saturday, that maybe it was a look-ahead game because Tennessee comes to town on Saturday, down to 5 regular season games left. Alabama beats Tennessee on Saturday. They're in the driver's seat to repeat as SEC champions. Still, nothing's guaranteed. They got to go to Kentucky. They got to play Florida again on the road. So, I mean, it's a tough schedule, but it would give them a 2-game lead over Tennessee. That game Saturday is going to be must-watch TV, or if you can get there to the game, that's going to be one worth going to see.
Yeah, if you can get you a ticket to that ball game on a Saturday night in T-Town, Alabama and Tennessee, 7 o'clock tip-off. Yeah, I may have to see if I could score me a ticket somewhere. I don't know.
I have to go to check that one out. All right, guys. Brett, anything else? Hey, give us an update on your radio tower that got stolen.
It's still stolen, and it's still missing. So I have no earthly idea. So we're still we're trying to get rebuilt. I just unfortunately Monday night called a basketball game, wasn't feeling good. Went right after the basketball game to an urgent clinic, and I have COVID. So I've been at home until Saturday. So appreciate your thoughts and prayers and form in. But yeah, that's the update on the radio tower, and I'm glad you're doing well, Mick. You are you've got trees that's down around your house. You've had some work done around the house. You've just you're a man of leisure. You just we're doing your boat today, and and
moving it around, man.
I wish sometimes I sit and I wish I say, you know what? I wish I had the life that Mick Gillispie lives.
The life of Riley. Now I try to make the best out of what I
right, exactly.
Hey, the other thing too is how cool is it that people have rallied around you with the GoFundMe? I mean, that's really helping you get back on the air again. And I'm always amazed, but I shouldn't be, at the generosity of our fellow Americans.
Yes, and I sincerely appreciate it, and a lot of it is just from radio fans and radio people and colleagues and stuff, and yeah, this was a bad thing that happened, obviously, but the positive thing that I've taken away from it is I've met a lot of great people, and I've made a lot of great contacts and new friends along the way, so I'll take that.
All right. Well, Brett, thank you. And I want to remind you guys that we're brought to you by Pearl River Resort over in Choctaw, celebrating 30 years of Golden Moon Casino and Silver Star. They've got an incredible lineup of musical guests that are coming this year to blow out this 30-year anniversary. Brian McKnight, Cool and the Gang. Not just Cool, but Cool and the Gang are going to be there.
The gang is coming with Cool.
Yeah. Big and Rich. There's going to be more that will be announced as we move on. But you got Dancing Rabbit Golf Course today. Would have been a great day to play the Augusta that you can play over in Mississippi. You got the Timeout Sports Lounge, which is another awesome place to to watch games and Vegas style sports book there. And then you got the table games and the slots and all that at Pearl River Resort. All right, Brett, great to see you, my friend. Thank you, guys. Get in the comments section. Tell me what you think about Chris and Eli. Tell me what you think about Bama basketball. Anything else that you want to talk about football-wise as we get closer and closer to spring football, which I cannot believe it. But we're almost to the real beginning of the DeBoer era when we get these guys out on the field and see what they can do. All right, thanks for hanging out with us, guys, and Roll Tide.